Hello. Just giving everybody a minute to find me if you're coming on live. And it looks like we're getting just a little bit of shadow tonight, so I'm going to try to plug in my other light just to help supplement that. So just give me a second. We'll see if that light might help a little bit. Hello, Michelle. Oh, I think that extra light maybe helped a little bit. Not much we can do with the evening light this time of year, even in the craft rooms, but that's not too bad. So I think I'm in a fairly straight spot. Try not to bump my camera. I've got everything plugged in tonight because I'm always so worried that all the batteries are gonna die, but the cord sometimes makes my phone a little off balanced. Okay, I'll just give it one more minute in case anybody else is popping on to try to find us. Always seems to be the latest adventure these days on Facebook is getting the right notifications, having to refresh. Don't know if anybody else has found that. Okay. Are you just watching tonight, Michelle? Were you thinking of crafting along? Are you working on another project? Okay. So I think I will get started, and if others are joining us, we will be able to have them just jump in. And of course, for anybody who is joining on replay, hello, welcome, and I'm happy you're here. So we're here for another Throwback Thursday from Craft and Kimmy Stamps. And tonight I am going to be using the stamp set You're Nifty. I'll just kind of flip it to try to get to not get the reflection. Awesome, just watching. Oh, great, you completed your monthly challenge cards. That's fantastic. Hi, Karen. Oh, Kelly, I'm sorry you're sick. That's no fun. So hopefully just like vegging on the couch and watching all the Krafty videos can help put you in a little bit of a better, you know, mood considering you're sick. Okay, so we're going to use the stamp set tonight, You're Nifty. And at one point, some variations of this stamp were done in rubber. And then this was, if I'm remembering right, so if I'm completely out to lunch, Kim will be able to, after the replay, pop in and tell me that I was like totally not knowing what I was talking about. But I am pretty sure that this was in rubber and was brought back as a Krafty comeback. And then some of the sayings and sentiments were from like a bunch of different rubber sets, and it was kind of put together to all go as one. And what I want to do tonight is a little bit more of a demo style as opposed to doing every little step of the way. Hi, Margaret Erica. Hi, Tamara. And so I have a lot of things pre-done, and I'm just going to walk you through how to put together the card and give you some measurements. You can jot them down And I just think it might be easier to sort of build it after so you can see what supplies you have, really decide on the paper you want to use. And then I have at the end just another version of the card that I'll show you that I did a little something extra that you could try out. So we're ready to have some fun together for a short while tonight and put everybody in a good Thursday mood, because who doesn't want that? We're almost to the weekend, folks, so that's great. I'm really looking forward to that. I have had a busy, busy week. So tonight, we are going to be making a card that actually has no coloring. Believe it or not, we are going simple, but I wanted to try to use this stamp in a unique way to help maybe push us out of the box when we're thinking about using our stamps. So what I have done and what we're going to want to do when you decide, or if you decide to make this card, is I have a card base and I did a top folding card, but that is just because that's how I cut my paper. There is absolutely no rhyme or reason to doing a top fold other than it's fun. And you're also going to want to have about 4 patterns of paper. So you're going to want one that is a bit, I think, a bit more bold, but this could be cardstock. So once you decide on your color scheme, it absolutely does not have to be a pattern. We're only going to see a very, very small bit of border. And then you're going to want 3 other patterns that in the little note I left for you all is a bit more subtle. So I had papers from a matching collection that were the gingham. So this is a Simply Stated design collection. So I just pulled from the same collection. So everything went like with the colors. But as you can see, these are the same patterns. So like I would expect you might choose something like a small polka dot, or maybe you just have some textured paper, just something that kind of goes. You're going to want some black paper, and then you're also going to want a piece of white paper to do the little bit of stamping. So to give you some basic measurements, this is just your standard A2 card. That's all I've done for my base. So I cut my 8.5 by 11 paper down to 4 1/4 by 11, and I scored at 5.5 just to get my A2 base. And then you are going to want, this second piece will end up layered on top of this piece right here for our front. Okay. And so I actually am just going to go ahead and get that glued on right now. I'm not going to ink or sand my edges, but that is something you could definitely do. I do that a lot, but I just wanted to sort of keep this design simple in a way that would still have the wow factor, but without having to do a lot of steps. So this piece is just a 1/4 inch smaller than what your A2 panel would be. So it is, oh, I'm squeezing out glue. It is a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of pattern, so that when I glue it onto my base, I have that nice white edge around the outside. So I like to do that a lot. It just adds a little bit of extra flavor. Then the second piece is I have chosen a black, and it is going to get put on. And so as you can see, I've cut it so that there is a very, very thin border of pattern. The example I'm going to show you at the end, I trimmed this black a little bit more so that you could see a little bit more of the pattern. Okay, but what I have cut this black piece to is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So now that I've given these measurements, I'm going to try to sneak just this little cheat sheet in there to see if it will show up on the screen. So that is your border piece, like the matte, and then this is like your black piece. Okay, I am not going to attach this piece because we are going to do a little something extra with it. Okay, so I'm just going to set my base aside for right now and kind of have this black piece that is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 ready to go. So the next thing that I want to talk about is these pattern papers. So as you can see, I have actually pre-cut them, die cut them into circles. So I felt that our stamp set today had a very like retro 50s vibe. So I picked a collection that I thought really suited that. And I thought the circles kind of gave it that 50s feel. That's just what I was vibing. So I did that. And I had a set of nesting circle dies. And so the ones that I picked, they were not even, like when I measured with my ruler. So like the biggest piece, this pattern, was about 3.5-ish, thus the ish. So you'll want a big circle that's about 3.5-ish, and it is going to end up getting overlaid like along the edge, and we're going to trim it off. So that's why it's okay that it feels a bit larger. Then I had a 3.25-ish piece, and from that, you are going to cut a piece of white that can be stamped on. So this is the piece that we are going to see the main focal image that we're going to use from our stamp. So that is about 3.25-ish. And then this circle here is about 2.25-ish. Hi, Kathy. Welcome. Glad you're stopping by. And then this little one here is about 1.25-ish. I hope you guys like my ishes. Sometimes I'm exact, but sometimes we can't be exact. And it's going to honestly depend on what supplies you have. This matted one wouldn't be necessary. Originally, I was just going to have the white piece, but I felt it looked almost out of place because these two were patterns. So I ended up going back and doing the matte. But you might not have a set of nesting dies that is going to do something that close. You could also cut it out using a Cricut machine or a silhouette. Maybe you have the old school, like circle, I don't even know what those were called, circle trimmers that we had, you know, when we all started this venture. You could trace around circle objects, like whatever you need to do to get your circles. All right. So the other thing you're going to need, I didn't write it down, but we are going to end up using one of the sentiments. So you are going to need a strip that you could just cut for a sentiment. And I think mine was, it's probably about 3/8 in width. So just enough that you'll be able to get that sentiment and then trim it down. So I just used a piece of scrap. Like after I die cut my white circle from the paper, I just cut a little piece off the end. Okay. So that's sort of the general gist of like how this is going to go together. So we're going to do some piecing. I'm going to walk you through kind of what I did with the stamping, and then we'll kind of put it together. So it's really low key tonight. If there is anybody playing along, is there anybody that just wants a couple minutes because they'd like to pull out some die cuts and get some circles cut or trim some paper? Because I can easily have a couple minutes of combo or repeat any of the measurements if you are playing along. But I know probably a lot of folks on these nights, you know, we've been busy and probably spent a lot of time just watching and then doing later. I know that's what I used to always do, but I don't want to discount that somebody might be actually crafting. I am going to use some foam dots to pop up the different elements that we're going to end up putting on this piece of paper. So that's something that you might want to have handy. And then I just have my liquid adhesive as well. Okay. So I feel like most are probably just watching. So I'm going to kind of keep going so that we can see what we are doing. So just to save a bit of time and cleanup, and in full disclosure, I have had like the craziest couple of weeks. So I had everything planned, but I just really felt that if I tried to do every step live, I was going to mess up. Like that is how my week was going. So I did some things pre-done, but I want to walk you through my process. So I'm going to leave it on the black so that you can see, but I'm just going to take these circles away. So the circle that you were going to stamp on, this is where I wanted to think outside the box. We often have these intricate dies. This is one that has a lot of detail. There's a lot of little parts to get stamped, to color. And I find sometimes with these stamps, well, they are fabulous to color. When it comes to then color matching with some of our papers and colors, then we end up disappointed because the pink in our paper didn't match the pink that we chose to color with and all that kind of stuff. So what I really wanted us to think about was how we can use the stamp in a unique way. So I am going to just pull up this backing for a minute just so I can maybe try to get a good look here. So if you have your white piece, what I wanted you to think about with a big stamp like this is thinking about what part of the image you would like to see on the paper without stamping the whole image. So I really am going to capture the frame of these two groovy folks here at the soda shop with their milkshake. And I'm not worried about the fact that I'm not going to see the bottoms of their feet or the bottoms of the table or the bottom of the stool. So when I put this in my platform, I just ended up using like a tacky mat in my board and stick the circle down so you feel it's secure and get the image where you want it, put your platform down, and then you can stamp your image and you're only going to see what you've stamped. So by the magic of television, so you can actually see what I'm talking about, I have pre-stamped this one here so you can see that that's what I have done. So we are only seeing the top portion of our characters and the table at the milk shop. Because of how I was planning to put it onto my piece with cutting a little bit, I left purposely a bit of negative space up at the top and a slight sliver along the side so that I can trim some of that off when I overhang it. Once we finish the card, I'm going to talk about a couple spots that maybe you would bring in color. Like at this point, you could absolutely color it. There is no rules that say you can't, but I just thought it would be kind of a unique touch to use the stamp in a black and white way and have all the rest of the paper just do the talking for us. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to take my bigger circle. That would be the mat. And for this one, I am just going to glue my circled stamped image directly onto my mat of this black gingham here. Okay. Hi, Sienna. How's it going? Sorry I couldn't pop into your stuff yesterday. I was just telling everybody what a crazy another week it's been, but everything's better in the craft room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of eyeball and look at sort of where I'm going to want that on my mat. And then I'm going to flip it over because I want to pop this up. So I'm going to hopefully have a pencil somewhere here. I'm just going to make a little line there because I'm going to trim this with my trimmer first. If I was laying this flat, I would glue it and then I would just put it in my trimmer and cut it off. But because we are going to pop it up, I know just from experience that popping something up and then trying to put it through your trimmer never ends well. At least not for me. And I'll just sand that little piece off after because it kind of went a little jaggedy. And I just have my little sanding tool so that if the edges, like, I don't know about you, but like we've been talking a lot about trimmer blades lately, about how they don't last as long and they're making things very jagged. I don't know, I feel like just that little tiny edge of the circle did not cut. So I'm just gonna take my scissors here just to get a nice smooth edge. Okay. So I've got that. So now I'm going to take my foam dots, or foam squares, whatever we want to call them, and I'm just going to add them to the back of my circle. I tend to not use a lot of foam squares. Sometimes I think I should use more, but then I see others load it right up and I'm like, oh my gosh, why are you using that much? So I think you're either team lots of foam squares or your team not as many. Now I have to be careful because I am going to overlap a little bit here. So I probably could have put this one just in a little different spot, but I'm just going to be careful maybe not to press down super hard. Now I'm trying to not lean over so you can see my head here, but I might have to because I'm not tall enough. So just hang on while I line this up, or I can look above. Then I'll push it down. Okay. So I think that's pretty good. My desk is taller, like I'm standing, but I'm still not tall enough to lean over and see to line it up. So I put that there and you can see it's coming off the edge. And then I'm gonna take this blue one and I am going to leave this one flat. So I'm just gonna add a touch of glue, just kind of paying attention that I'm not gonna go a little bit off of the edge because I want it to overhang. And I'm gonna purposely make the gingham a bit crooked because I noticed I didn't do the black straight. So I feel like if I make this gingham straight and the rest are not, it'll probably drive me a little bit wild. Okay, so we're just tucking that smaller circle. So this is our two biggest ones. There were the 3.5 and 3.25-ish. This is my 2.25-inch-ish, just tucked underneath there. And then I'm also going to take this smaller one, my 1.25-inch, and put it just roughly down here. I'm going to tip it this way. I think that would look super cute. So now I've got kind of my 3 bubbles going on there. And then again, because this one was flat, I'm just going to bring my trimmer right in and lay this down. And I know I have the 3D foam here, but it's flat enough on this edge. I should be able to get a clean cut if I don't cut the rest of my paper first. Let's not do that. My goodness. There we go. So now I've got that edge. Just give it a little. I did get a little trim there. Got a little extra slit in it, but it's homemade, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So there is our generally simple design with our stamped image just popping up on those circles. So then we're going to take the panel. Now you could pop this panel up as well. We're going to be adding a sentiment, but it just depends on how thick you want your card to be. And it depends on if you're sending them in the mail or if you're just giving it away. So I'm going to just glue mine on flat, but you absolutely could pop yours up. And as I said at the beginning, this one, we are just going to see a very, very small pattern border, but it just brings in some of the colors that we chose for our circles. Okay. So then we had our strip, and for this design, I don't know what I did with my stamp. It's all very wobbly. Probably bent the paper here. I used the try and get these lined up. There we go. I used the "You're Nifty" sentiment. So I pre-stamped, again, the magic of television. So we're just going to make a little sentiment strip. So I used my Misty and I stamped that onto my strip. And then I am just going to come and maybe leave about 1/4 of an inch or so. I think ish is the name of the game tonight for me, as we can see. Not everything has to be exact. And then I want to make this into just a little banner. So I'm going to come at the end and just cut a slit halfway and then cut in from my corners. To make my own little flag sentiment. Okay. And I'm going to flip that over. Oh, hi, Wanda. I didn't see you pop on. Yes, it is the Mid-Century Mom Collection. Sienna, you are right. I was talking a little bit about that at the beginning, that it was simply stated. Hi, Mary Pat. There's so many of you that always seem to pop on and find us. We love it. And some faces that I know are still a little bit new to the Craft and Kimmy world, so I have loved that you're joining me. Okay, so I popped this up and I'm just going to put the sentiment raised onto this smaller of our circles. And that, folks, in under half an hour is a card. Now, yes, I did some pre-cutting and stamping, but I did this last night before I went to bed. I think it took me maybe 3 minutes to die cut my circles, and it probably took me longer to clean my stamp than it did to stamp this image. So add another maybe 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how you are with your stamping platform, to die cut your circles and stamp your image, and you're going to be good to go. And it's effective. It uses the stamp in a cool way. You could add a few little like gems or other pearls to bring in more of the circle effect. And then here's where you can see, even though we've cut off part of the bigger portion of the image, you could still color this. Like I've use language here, Lindsay. I've chosen to leave it black and white because I wanted it to be a little different and have that retro vibe, but you could add color. The other thing that I thought could be super cute is just if you picked a color that suited it, like you had a bit of red, for example, maybe you just come and like add a red on the cherry, or you only color the milkshake and then everything else is black and white. So I thought that would kind of be cool. I don't know if anybody likes Marvel and like WandaVision, but I had this like vision, oh, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended, vision of like the black and white spreading to color. And so that was sort of kind of the nerdy inspiration that got me thinking. So this one, we did do some pop dots. So we had some 3D effects, but I wanted to show you the one I did make a few days ago just to give you a sense of another touch. I hope it's going to show up, but I created this card again. I'm going to kind of wiggle it around up at the camera just to see. Can you see the gloss shining at all? I kind of hope so. So I did another color palette. I made the black piece just a little bit smaller, so you see a bit more of the border. I glued everything flat, but I actually embossed the image. I didn't do so good with getting my flakes off, and so they're kind of stuck on, but I kind of liked the little bits of the speckled dust that stayed on. And so I used this like black shimmery sparkly embossing powder I had. And so again, black and white, but it adds a little bit of shine. I did struggle a little bit, I will be honest, with getting the very fine detail when I embossed. When I did it a couple times and then I finished embossing, there was like a little bit of the table that had not embossed. I believe there was a couple spots on the girl's hair and the back of the chair that were missed. So I just took my gel pen and I just filled in those little spots that got missed with the black ink and the embossing. And you'd never know. Like, nobody is going to know that you did that. So that's just another way that you could glam it up while still keeping that kind of black and white effect. So again, totally low key tonight, which I hope everybody is okay with. But I just love the idea of using your stamp in just a unique way. I'm going to try to make sure I can get everything on the screen just so that you can kind of see at the end. So this is your Nifty. Creating some retro cards. This one I used the What's Shaken. Loved that for the milkshake. And I hope that it gives you some ideas of what you can do. Thanks, everyone. Hope it inspires you to try something like this. Even if you don't have this stamp exactly, you might have, there's a lot of other really good Krafty and Kimmy stamps that have these bigger images that I think would lend themselves really nice to this technique. If you need a quick birthday card, I was thinking for Christmas, if you had an image like this, what a good way to mass produce like some designs with this kind of style. So if anybody has any questions or watching on replay and also have questions, make sure you tag me. And if you do create, we'd love to see your creations in the Krafty and Kimmy Krafty Friends Facebook group where we are right now. You can always tag Krafty and Kimmy when you post on your own social media. And this set right now is should be on sale in the shop. This is true of all of the Throwback Thursday sets that us design team members do our videos with every Thursday. Usually heading into it, Kim puts them on sale, as well as any stencils or inks that are being used, and then they usually stay on sale for a little bit longer. So check out that section on the website if you're interested in snatching up this cute set. And that's what I have for you guys tonight. So thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your evening, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.